Hi friends, and today we can discuss AS 13 investments. Okay, so we can discuss the complete theory part first related to AS 13 investments and various important points related to AS 13. No doubt it is very important from the examination point of view. Okay, so let us come to know first of all what do you mean by investments. So every entity or every enterprise will go for this kind of investments. Generally investments are purchased. Investments like these are all like assets to every entity or enterprise. Simply investments are assets held by the enterprise for earning the revenue. So every enterprise may go for investments to generate the revenue, to earn the revenue out of investments. So what kind of revenue it may earn? So it may earn the dividends. Say example, if I purchase like investments equity shares in the market, so I may get the dividend out of equity shares. So interest, if I purchase the debentures or if I purchase the bonds in the market, so investments are made by me like purchase of debentures or purchase of bonds, and I may get the interest on the debentures or bonds. And rent, say example, I bought a building and I given on the rental basis, so and definitely I can earn the revenue on the basis of rent. Okay, and capital appreciation, I may purchase land, I may purchase gold, I may purchase buildings. So because with intention is their value may be appreciated over the period of time, and I can sell them in the market, and I may get the profit out of that. So that every enterprise will go for the investments with an object to earn the income by the in the way of dividend like equity shares and like interest and like debentures and bonds, like rent, giving purchasing a premises or building to give on the basis of rental basis, capital appreciation like purchase of gold and land, buildings like that. So these are all investments made by every business to earn the income out of all the investments. Simply what we can say that the investments are nothing but assets held by the any particular business or enterprise by for earning the income by the way of dividend, by the way of interest, by the way of rent, by capital appreciation and some other benefits also. What kind of some other benefits they may enjoy? Say example, I purchase some equity shares. I can some bonus shares may be issued by the company for the equity shareholders at free of cost, and some right shares may be offered at lower than market price. So that kind of additional benefits also may be there. So simply at the end we can say, and investments are nothing but assets held by an enterprise for earning the income by the way of dividend, by the way of interest, by the way of rent and by the capital appreciation. Particularly AS 13 will cover accounting for investments. How accounting investments, whenever you purchase the investments and whenever the investments are sold by you, what generally we can do related to investments? I can buy the investments and I can generate I can earn the revenue out of investments. I can sell them in the market. So at the end of the period, how I have to value the investments at the end of the period. So whenever the investments are purchased, how to record? Whenever investments are sold and how to record? Whenever investments at the end of the period, how they are to be valued, and all these points are covered by the AS 13. But very importantly, interest and dividend, some exemptions are there, which are these areas are not being covered by the AS 13. And obviously which are not covered by AS 13, definitely they may be covered by the some other standard, otherwise some guidance note, otherwise some regulatory bodies they may be covered. So that which are not covered here, these are all exemptions, these are all not covered by the AS 13. So interest, dividend and rent, how to recognize as a revenue in the books, and that won't be covered here. Okay, interest earned, dividend earned and so interest earned, dividend earned and rent, how to recognize interest, dividend, rent and all the revenue generated by the different ways can be recognized by AS9 revenue recognition. And moreover, investments made by the operating lease and finance lease, that is they are also investments. So and how to recognize the revenue and how to deal those investments can be discussed by AS19 lease accounting. Like investment of retirement benefits plans and all that is recognized by IRDA. So insurance regulatory development authority, and mutual funds is also kind of investment. How to recognize that mutual funds? It is a special guidance note for that. So that interest and dividend rent and these kind of revenues how to be recognized dealt by AS9. Operating finance lease discussed by AS19. Retire investment of retirement benefits discussed by IRDA, and mutual funds there is a separate guidance note. So like this, some of they are exemptions, they are not covered by the AS13. So but anyhow at the end we can say AS13 simply they are investments which are assets like held by the enterprise to earn the income by the way of dividend like equity shares, I said, interest by the when you purchase some debentures or bonds, and by rent I bought a building and given on the rental basis. Capital appreciation, investing money in the gold like land, like building appreciation will be there, and some other benefits also there. I said that giving when I purchase equity shares, and company may give some bonus shares to me at free of cost, or some rate shares are offered at the lower than market price, and that kind of benefits also I may get out of equity shares. So simply investments are assets held by the enterprise by earning the revenue in the different forms, and AS13 will not cover those important issues. First, let us come to know in the AS13 we are going to discuss that accounting for investments. So, how investments are to be accounted for in our books, particularly I said that you can buy the investments, how to record at the time of purchase, whenever revenue generated, how to recognize in your books, and whenever investments are sold, how to treat. So at the end of the period, if investments are left with you like whatever the balance of investments you are having, how they can be valued. At the time of purchase, how you can recognize, at the time of sale, how you can recognize, and while at the end of the period, how you can value the investments, and during the period, how income generated and how you are going to. And I said that is simply told already by AS9. And whether accrual basis to be recognized, or right to receive the payment established and recognized, and all those points are mentioned by the AS9 how to recognize revenue about them. So let us come to know that while accounting for investments in your books, you have to classify very clearly they are current investments or non-current investments, because current investments are to be dealt in separate way and non-current investments are to be dealt in separate way. So what is a current investments? Current investments means investments which are purchased with intention to sell by less than 12 months period of time. They are called current investments. I repeat once again, current investments means investments which are purchased with an intention to sell by less than 12 months period, 1 year, is known as current investments. Non-current investments, obviously investments which are purchased to keep for more than 1 year, more than 12 months, they are called non-current investments. So if I want to purchase them to sell them by less than 12 months current, if I want to keep with me for a period of more than 12 months, they are called non-current investments. Basically investments are classified in two ways, current as well as non-current investments. Okay, so we can discuss that part, we can discuss it later. So first point is clear, this one is over. Investment simply I told already, investments are the assets held by the enterprise for earning the income by the way of dividend, interest, rent and capital appreciation and other benefits. And moreover I said that these are not covered here. So recognizing revenue, interest, dividend, rent discussed by AS9. Operating finance lease, investment in operating finance lease covered by AS19. Investment of retirement benefits discussed by IRDA. Insurance regulatory development authority, and if investments are made in the mutual funds, that is separate guidance note for that. Okay, those are not covered here, AS 13. Now let us discuss that classification of investment. Already I said current and non-current investments. So I purchased investments with an intention to less than 12 months period current, but I want to keep more than 12 months, they are called non-current investments. Come to the next one. I said that what we can do, I can buy the investment. During the period wherever I can keep the investments with me, I can earn the income out of investments, I can sell the investments in the market. At the end of the period, whatever the investments are with me, I can value the investment, that's all. Purchasing, selling, during the period, earning out of them, that's all. That is only what I am going to do. Particularly let us see purchase. In case of purchase of investments, whenever I buy the investment, simply what is entry investments account, it to cash or bank account. And notable point, it add cost of incidental charges like a brokerage, stamp duty and registration fees, etc. These are all to be added. If I purchase any investments, at the time of purchase, any incidental charges are there like a brokerage, stamp duties, registration fees, etc. And they are added to the purchase price. Including all of them, I can say cost of purchase. So while purchasing investments, if any brokerage, stamp duty, etc., they are to be registration fees, etc., they are to be added. Okay, simply investments account it are to cash or bank account. Next one, sale of investments. In case of sale of investments, if any these kind of brokerage charges are there, incidental charges are there, they are to be deducted. So because if I am selling them, if I am getting a particular amount, and obviously in case of sales, these incidental charges and all that, after deduction of these incidental charges, I can receive the balance money only. So at the time of purchase, all incidental charges, brokerage, stamp duty, etc. should be added. But in case of sale, they should be deducted. All incidental charges should be deducted. Moreover, very importantly, so look at that. If entire investments are sold, compare the net sale proceeds and with carrying amount of investment, simply I can say the profit. If entire investments are sold, I know how much cost incurred for the entire investments. I know the sale proceeds also. I can compare both of them. Simply I can recognize the profit or loss. Otherwise, entire investments are not sold. Only a part of investments are sold. Then how to recognize profit or loss? Usually I can say that what is the entire, I can apply normally average cost. Okay, so what is the nominal value of the total investments what I am having? Nominal value of total investments, cost incurred for them. Sold investment nominal value, and what is the cost incurred for them. Average cost of investment sold I would like to consider. Then I can compare with my sale proceeds, I can say the profit or loss. If entire investments are sold, there is no problem. I can compare my sale value, I can compare my book value of investments. Difference simply I can say like a profit or loss. But if only some of the investments are sold, and I have to check that what is the total nominal value of investments, what is the total cost incurred for them, and what is the nominal value of investments sold, what is the cost incurred, total average carrying cost to be considered whenever a part of investments are sold. Then I can recognize the profit or loss. So that is what the sale of investment. When investments are sold in the bank account, it are to investments account. Okay, and then definitely you need to recognize profit or loss. If entire investments are sold, very simple, total cost incurred for them, total realizable value, difference is profit loss. If part of investments are sold, apply the average carrying cost. How applying average cost will be there, we can discuss while discussing the problems. Okay, purchase of investments over, sale of investments are over. Incidental charges to be added here, purchases, incidental charges to be deducted at the time of sale. If entire investments are sold, compare the entire investments cost incurred and sale price, difference is a profit loss. If part of investment sold, apply the average cost. And next, end of the period, some of the investments are left with you, and then how to value those investments. Definitely depending upon whether they are current investments or non-current investments, and we need to value the end of the period investments. Say example, if the end of the period you are having some investments you need to value, then you have to value always at cost or fair value, whichever is lower to be considered. If they are current investments, they are always to be valued at cost or fair value, whichever is cost. Of course, already it is there in your books only, because normally you can record in the books at cost price only. Say example, you have to value the fair value. What does it mean, a fair value? Fair value in the sense the buyer and seller both should have the complete knowledge about what they are buying and selling, which is also called arm's length transaction. So buyer and seller, both the people having complete knowledge about what they are buying and selling, and there should not be any relationship between both of them, buyer and seller, and they should not have unsound mind. They should have complete sound mind. So buyer and seller both, they should have the complete knowledge about what they are buying and selling, and moreover there should not be any relationship between them, and they should not have unsound mind. They should have a sound mind. Obviously, when these features are there, buyer would like to buy at very low price, seller would like to sell at a very high price. If any price is being fixed in that condition, that is known as a fair value. Okay. Normally, in the usual sense, market value or fair value, both they provide like evidence to the fair value. Okay, how can you say this is a fair value? Normally, market value or whatever the NRV value is there, both these work like evidence to the fair value. Okay, that's why usually cost or fair value, whichever is lower, to be recognized. Already I said that fair value is like a market value or NRV will work, both these two work like a evidence, provide like evidence to the fair value. Nothing but fair value or market value or NRV. Anyone you may take it. So cost or fair value or cost or market price, whichever is lower to be recognized. Say example, cost itself is a lower, no problem at all. Books are recorded at the cost price. But if it is a market, say example, it is at 100 rupees. Market price is 120. No problem, recorded 100 only. In books it is at 100, market 120, cost is lower, cost only you have to take. So need not to change anything. Say example, cost is 100, market is 80. Then you have to bring that investments at the end of the period to 80, which means you have to recognize the last 20 and that last to be charged to P&L account. So when you are going to recognize cost or market price, whichever is lower, if cost is lower, no problem. If market price is lower, bring your cost price to the market price, recognize the loss into P&L. Okay. Say after some time and market value actually 100 rupees cost price, market value 80, 20 rupees recognized as a loss and it is reduced to 80 rupees right now. Again the market value is increased. I can increase to the extent what earlier I decreased. I decreased earlier 20. To that extent I can increase once again, but not more than that. I can bring up to cost price again, and then also that can be recorded again in the P&L statement. Okay, and that is the way to treat that whenever it is a current investments, always like cost or fair value, whichever is lower to be recorded. Non-current investments always to be recorded at the historical or cost price only. Temporary fluctuations need not to be considered. But sometimes it is said there is a permanent decrease. Yes, definitely you can reduce that charge to P&L. And if subsequently if there is increase, how much it is decreased earlier, to that extent we can increase and again we can take into P&L statement. So non-current investments or long-term investments always valued at the historical cost, need not to consider temporary fluctuations. If there is a permanent decrease, you can decrease it and charge to P&L. Subsequently, if there is increase, how much earlier decrease, and the same you can you can increase to that extent, and again you can take into the P&L statement. That is the how to value the investments based on current as well as non-current investments. Valuation of investments to be done at the end of the period. I said that in case of purchase of investment, incidental charges to be added. Simply entry purchase accounted, investments accounted to cash or bank. Sale of investments, entry cash or bank accounted to investments. In case of sale of investments, incidental charges to be deducted. Meanwhile, if entire investments are sold, very simple, you know what is the total cost incurred, sale proceeds, difference to be recognized, profit loss. If a part of investment sold, you have to apply the average cost. How to apply, we can discuss it. And value of investments at the end of the period. If current investments, cost or market price, whichever is lower to be considered. If cost itself is lower, no problem at all because they are at cost price. If market price is lower, bring the cost price to market price and recognize the loss. Subsequently, if they are increased, so how much earlier you reduce, to that extent to bring up to the cost price, and that amount also you can take into P&L statement. If they are non-current investments, always to be valued at the historical cost. So need not to consider temporary fluctuations. If there is a permanent decrease, reduce the investment and recognize that loss. Subsequently, if there is increase, you can increase up to the again cost and you can recognize that also into the P&L statement. And another very important point is fixed income and variable income securities. Complete accounting treatment is totally different. Say example, I purchased bonds and debentures like that. Fixed income bearing securities. In fixed income bearing securities, generally, usually interest may be paid for every 6 months or for every 1 year. Definitely while purchasing and while selling of fixed income securities, definitely the two important words to be added, X interest cum interest. Compulsorily it should be added while buying and while selling. Why? I'll tell you a small example. And actually company issued debentures and company decided to give the interest on every June and every December, 6 months once. For example, June company interest already paid. July, August, September, I bought those debentures in the market from somebody on October 1st. Already June company paid. July, August, September, October 1st, in the sense 3 months interest is there, which is called accrued but not due. Accrued but not, that interest is accrued, but due date is not fallen. Due date is fallen on which date? The due date will be fallen on December 31st, but not on October 1st. But 3 months which is accrued but not due is there. Obviously, while purchasing those investments in the market, I have to pay towards cost of debenture. I have to pay that interest also, which is accrued but not due. Why? Because after 3 months, means in the December, company will pay the debenture interest for 6 months, the person who is having the debentures. And obviously I will get the interest for 6 months, but out of the 6 months interest, 3 months interest belong to you, means from whom I am purchasing. So definitely I have to pay the interest for the 3 months, which is accrued but not due. So while purchasing always debentures, I have to pay towards cost of debenture and towards accrued interest, which is accrued but not due. I have to pay the interest definitely. Say example, June 30th company paid. On July 1st I am purchasing. Then I need not to pay because accrued but not due interest is 0. So that I have to pay definitely towards cost of investment and I have to pay towards accrued interest, which is not yet due. Even while selling also, say example, I am having some investments with me and company is going to pay for every June, December. Already June I received interest on them and I decided to sell them on October 1st to you. Already July, August, September, October 1st, 3 months, which is accrued but not due. That interest I have to receive, but due date is not fallen. On the December due date will be fallen. So while selling those investment, what I expect from you, the cost of investment I will expect. This 3 months interest, which is accrued but not due, also I will expect. Because after 3 more months, on December, company will pay the 6 months interest to you. So you have to pay 3 months interest to me, accrued interest, accrued but not due, and you have to pay toward cost of investment also. Therefore, while selling and while purchasing, and definitely you can find cum interest or ex interest words. So definitely while purchasing I have to pay towards cost of investment, towards interest. While selling, I have to receive towards cost of investment, towards interest, no doubt at all. What does it mean, cum and ex? Simply cum and ex means, cum means the price which is given, and in that particular price interest is not included. Interest is included. Say example, I am purchasing 1000 debentures at 98 rupees. It is given 1000 into 98 rupees. I multiply, I get a certain amount. In that amount, this accrued but not the interest is included or not. Cum interest means included. That interest I have to remove remaining amount only towards cost of investment. Ex interest means which I multiply with a price, that amount, whatever the amount will come, that is only towards investment. Interest is not included. Ex means not included. That interest I have to calculate separately and I have to add it. Cum means interest is included already in the mentioned price. X means it is not included in the respected given price. That's all simply. But anyhow, while purchasing, I have to pay that interest. While selling, I have to receive the interest which is accrued but not due. Compulsory in case of fixed income bearing securities, definitely it should be mentioned every time whether cum interest or ex interest. If nothing is mentioned, I will take ex interest. If nothing is mentioned, you may take like ex interest. Otherwise, it should be mentioned like very clearly cum interest or ex interest. Cum interest means in the respected multiplied price, interest is already included. Ex interest means interest is not included there. Okay, how to consider that we can discuss it later. But in case of variable income securities like equity shares, I am going to purchase equity shares. You never find like cum dividend, ex dividend. Why? Because there is no, in case of fixed income bearing securities, irrespective of company profit, it has to pay the interest on the particular due dates. Whether company earns profits or not, it should be given. But in case of variable income, equity shares, company may not dividend declare for a 3-4 years period also if company is not getting a profits. How can you say that this is accrued but not due dividend? There is no chance. Therefore, definitely in case of dividend, you never find this is accrued but not due dividend. Com and X words you never find in case of equity shares purchase, in case of equity share sales. Okay, but of course, so only just equity share purchase, that's all. But while receiving the dividend in case of variable securities, while receiving the dividend may be classified in two ways. What are those two? Pre-acquisition dividend, post-acquisition dividend. What is a pre-acquisition dividend and post-acquisition dividend? Say example, actually I am following financial year April 1st to and March 31st. I bought some of the investments from you on April 1st in the market. Some equity shares I bought from somebody. On those shares, April, May, June, July, August, in the month of September, the company declared the dividend for the period of March 31st. For the period of March 31st. Actually, I bought on April 1st. I bought on April 1st from you. Till the March 31st, company declared dividend, but that is declared on September, in the month of September. Obviously, who will receive the dividend? I will receive. Because those shares are with me, I will receive the dividend. Truly the dividend belongs to you, because till the March you are the owner. I bought in the month of April, but it is declared in the month of September for the period of March 31st. So you have to receive the dividend, but truly I am receiving the dividend. The dividend belongs to you, but at present I am the owner for those equity shares. I am receiving that particular dividend, which is called pre-acquisition dividend. Pre-acquisition dividend means for which period company is declaring dividend, for that period I am not the owner, somebody is the owner, but I am getting the dividend, which is called pre-acquisition dividend. And post-acquisition dividend. Post-acquisition dividend period, for which period dividend is declared, for that period I am the owner, I am getting the dividend. Post-acquisition dividend is always my revenue income. Simply I can write in my dividend column, I transfer like income to my P&L. Pre-acquisition dividend, I have to reduce my cost of investment. Why I reduce to my cost of investment? Obviously, while purchasing from you, what you will say, sir, normally its market price is this much, but company usually will pay in the month of September and October like this dividend. And because during the month of September those equity shares will be with you, so you will get the dividend. So I want to increase slightly a bit price. So indirectly, exactly they do not know, but how much dividend will be declared by the company, more or less that will be added in the while purchasing that price, and the certain amount being added. Automatically when dividend is given, to that extent their value you have to reduce. So that post acquisition dividend is a revenue income transferred to P&L. Pre-acquisition dividend are always to reduce the cost of investment, means write in the amount column. Post-acquisition dividend write in the dividend column, pre-acquisition dividend write in the amount column, reduce the cost of investment. So post-acquisition dividend means for which period you are the owner, you are receiving your dividend. Pre-acquisition dividend, for which period dividend is declared, somebody is owner, but while giving the dividend and you are the owner and you are receiving the dividend. So post-acquisition dividend is a revenue income, pre-acquisition dividend is a capital nature, reduce the cost of investment. That is related to variable and fixed income bearing securities related to common interest and X interest, variable income securities related to pre-acquisition and post-acquisition dividend. Next, bonus shares. In case of shares, company may issue some bonus shares at free of cost. Then what we are supposed to do? Right, whenever just like a purchase of shares, you can write in the bonus shares receipts column, like bonus shares, write in the number of shares column, in the amount column write nil, because no cost incurred by you, because bonus shares are given at free of cost. So write in the number of shares column, when bonus shares are given, in the cost column you can write nil. Okay, that is the treatment of bonus shares. Right shares. Next, right shares. What does it mean, right shares? Generally, these right shares are offered to the existing shareholders. Usually, they may be given at lower price than market price. Okay, so whenever these right shares are offered by the company, and if you purchase those shares at a provided price, write simply that as simply purchases. Write in the number of shares column and how much cost incurred, write in the cost column. Otherwise, so no, I don't like to purchase those shares, sir. I want to sell these rights to somebody. Not right share selling, rights are selling. Why? Because whenever right shares are allotted to you, obviously when definitely the allotment should be done. So for normal people shares may not be allotted. So somebody is decided to buy, but he is in confusion whether allotment may be done or not. So I am going to transfer my rights to him. Definitely, then shares will be definitely allotted to him. So in such a case, when sale of rights to somebody, not sale of right shares, sale of rights to somebody, and how to treat that? In case of sale of rights, and generally when I purchase the right shares, I can add to the number of shares in the number of shares column, amount in the cost column. But when I sale of rights to somebody, whatever the amount received by the sale of rights, and it should be transferred to the P&L account like income. But sometimes these right shares are being offered because my earlier shares are come right shares. Earlier shares are come right shares means what? Already these shares which were having already by me, they were come right shares. Because of those shares I am having, these present right shares are being offered. And obviously earlier come right shares will be converted as X right shares because the shares are being offered. Whenever come right share is converted as a X right share, definitely their market value will be slightly reduced because one feature being lost by that share. Earlier they were come right shares. Because of the come right shares, those right shares are offered by the company. Once the right shares are being offered, my come right shares will be converted as X right shares. Because of conversion of X right shares, the share value, my existing shares value will be slightly reduced. So in that case, how much actually reduced because of come right shares are converted as X right shares, how much amount is being reduced? To that much of amount I can reduce the cost of investment column, which means I write in the cost column, and remaining amount I transfer to the P&L account. Depending upon, simply if right shares are purchased, I can add to the number of shares and the cost column, cost involved in the cost column. But in case of sale of rights, I treat like simply income. But sometime it is mentioned rights are sold, but earlier shares are come right shares because of these shares being offered. In that case, come right shares after conversion they will be converted. Once right shares are being offered, they will be converted as X right shares. Because come right shares are offered converted as X right shares, their value will be reduced. So in that case, how much cost being reduced? To that extent, you can credit to the amount column, cost column, remaining amount transferred to P&L account like income. That is the treatment of the right shares. So next, assets held as stock in trade are not investments. Assets held as stock in trade are not investment means, so if I purchase the investments and immediately I am going to sell, not having any thought to keep for less than 1 year or more than 1 year, just I am buying and selling and buying and selling in that way. So in that case, and which is known as assets held as stock in trade are not investments. So that is not to be treated like investment. If I purchased and immediately I sold, which is called like a stock and trade, but it is not known as investments. And lastly, type of acquisition and cost of investments. You can purchase with cash, you can purchase by issue of some shares or securities, you can purchase by the exchange of some asset. Investments may be purchased by the payment of cash, by the payment of securities, shares or securities, by the given of some kind of asset. So in that case, how to consider the investments acquisition cost? So that is lastly mentioned here. Type of acquisition: if you purchase the investments by the payment of cash or bank, the acquisition cost is cost price of whatever the payment towards purchase of investments and all related charges to be added. Okay. Secondly, by the issue of shares or other securities, then cost of investments is known as fair value of securities issued by you. That is a cost of investments purchased. In exchange of another asset, I bought investments by exchange of one asset. In that case, fair value of asset acquired, fair value of asset given. So whichever is more clearly evident, that should be considered. Fair value of asset acquired or fair value of asset given, and whichever is more clearly evident, that should be taken. Okay, and this is what the complete theoretical information related to AS 13, and if you are very strong in all these points and whatever we discussed right now, and definitely we can handle all the investment sums in a very comfortable manner. First, while doing the sums, you should be very clear with it is a fixed income bearing security or variable income bearing security, and immediately you should know that current or non-current investments. Depending upon the current and non-current, fixed income or variable income, and completely it should be handled in a different style. Okay, so by having all complete this theoretical knowledge, and we can handle any number of sums in a comfortable manner, and we can discuss the first illustration problem from the ICA study material. So in the next class, so please try to understand each and every point what we discussed here. Okay, and we can discuss in the next class illustration from the ICA study material AS 13 investments accounting. Okay, bye.